Welcome back. All right, season previews. We're now up to the Boston Bruins. Boston going back to their regular logo this year, so the Centennial jerseys get pushed aside. We go back to the regular Boston jerseys. Yeah, I'm going to miss the Centennials as well. So going back to 2014, 2015 up until now, so for the last 10 seasons, Brad Marchand's been the leading scorer for Boston. I'm sure if he ever gets in the Hall of Fame, everybody will have a totally normal reaction to that. 729 games played, 309 goals, 434 assists, 743 points. And Marchand, he's closing in on 1,000 career points. He could get there. David Pastrnak, 674 games, 348 goals, 379 assists, 727 points. Patrice Bergeron, 635 games, 244 goals, 301 assists, 545 points. David Krejci, 528 games played, 121 goals, 287 assists, 408 points. Torrey Krug, who of course now is with St. Louis, 441 games, 53 goals, 242 assists, 295 points. Charlie McAvoy, 454 games played, 53 goals, 224 assists, 277 points. So 13 more games by McAvoy than Krug and 18 less points. All of those assists, but Krug was the better offensive defenseman. McAvoy's the better all-around defenseman. Jake DeBrusk, 465 games, 138 goals, 128 assists, 266 points. Charlie Coyle, 388 games, 81 goals, 127 assists, 208 points. Danton Heinen, 294 games played, 51 goals, 88 assists, 139 points. Zdeno Chara rounds out the top 10, 421 games played, 44 goals, 94 assists, 138 points. When it comes to the top 5 goaltenders during that same time period, Tuukka Rask dominates. Record of 206, 105, and 44. Linus Ullmark, 88, 28, and 10. Jeremy Swayman, 79, 33, and 5. Yaroslav Halak, 49, 23, and 14. And Anton Hudobin's on the list at a record of 23, 12, and 8. So over the last 5 seasons, Boston's been the best in the regular season at points percentage, 704. And I would think that the record-breaking 2022-2023 season really skewed these numbers. Their goals for per game, 3.25. That's 8th. Their goals against at 2.46 goals against per game, 1st over the last 5 years. Their power play, 9th at 22.6%. Their penalty kill, 2nd at 84.2%. But when you look at the numbers from this past season, you can see a little bit of erosion because you can't have record numbers like that every year. 665 points percentage, which is 6th overall in the NHL this past season. Their 3.21 goals scored per game was 13th. Their goals against of 2.7 even, 5th overall in the NHL. Power plays, they were 14th at 22.2%. Their penalty kill 7th at 82.5%. So they stay in the top 10 in 3 of the categories, top 15 in the other 2. But you can see that Boston not quite as dominant as they were the previous year. Their top 10 scorers, it's David Pastrnak all over, isn't it? 82 games, 47 goals, 63 assists, 110 points. Marchand's a distant second. Also played all 82 games, 29 goals, 38 assists, 67 points. Charlie Coyle had himself quite the year. 82 games, 25 goals, 35 assists, 60 points. Pavel Zacha had a good year too. 78 games, 21 goals, 38 assists, 59 points. Charlie McAvoy, 74 games, 12 goals, 35 assists, 47 points. Jake DeBrusk, 80 games, 19 goals, 21 assists, 40 points. Trent Frederick, 82 games, 18 goals, 22 assists, also had 40 points. Morgan Geekie was close to equaling that, played 76 games, 17 goals, 22 assists, 39 points. James Van Riemsdyk, who's currently still an unrestricted free agent, 71 games, 11 goals, 27 assists, 38 points. And Danton Heinen, 74 games, 17 goals, 19 assists, 36 points. The top 2 goaltenders, Swayman and Ullmark. Swayman, 25, 10, and 8, 916 save percentage and 3 shutouts. Ullmark, 22, 10, and 7, 915 save percentage, 2 shutouts. I've seen people saying Swayman's like a top 5 goaltender in the NHL, maybe even top 3. Seen it on the channel. I've seen some of it online. I wouldn't put Swayman in that category yet. He has not had a season yet where he's the undisputed number 1 goaltender. So needs to at least have that before he's going to be in that category for me. Anyways, the rookie to watch, I think Fabian Lysell. That being said, odds are we won't see very much in the way of rookies from the Boston Bruins this year again. So their top 12 forwards, Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak should be the wingers on that top line. Elias Lindholm's being paid like a first-line center. I think that's where he'll get tried to start the season. You then have Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle, Morgan Geekie, likely on that second line. Trent Frederick. Matthew Poitras is a key guy. Poitras got hurt last season, had an uneven rookie season, but at the start of the last season, he looked really, really good. So Poitras, if he can come in and play to start this season like he did last season, that would be huge. And Justin Brazeau, he fit right in when he came up too. On that fourth line, you've got the recently added Max Jones alongside Johnny Beecher, and Mark Kastelik was added as well in the offseason. So it's a pretty good 1-4 line team. Are they the best 1-4 line team in the East? No. And then your extras, Vinny Lettieri, who was added in the offseason, Patrick Brown, Georgi Merkulov, who came up and played some games with them last season, Mark McLaughlin, Riley Tufte, Jeffrey Veal, Cole Koepke, and the previously mentioned Fabian Lysell. On the blue line, you have Nikita Zadorov, Charlie McAvoy. Nikita Zadorov, that big contract, much like the one for Lindholm, it's a lot to play up to. Zadorov getting paid at a level he never has before. We'll see what that pressure does to his game. Hampus Lindholm, Brandon Carlo round out what's a pretty solid top four for Boston. Then you got Mason Lohrei and Andrew Peeke there likely rounding out the top six, although you've got Parker Wotherspoon there as an extra, Jordan Osterley, Ian Mitchell, and Alec Regula as well. So not much in the way of rookies with this team. There are some decent younger players, but Boston, it's going to be a very similar lineup to the one they had this past season, which again should be a playoff team, but are they going to be able to get anywhere in said playoffs? So their top two goaltenders, the previously mentioned and as yet unsigned Jeremy Swayman. Jonas Korpisalo is there as the backup. He comes over from Ottawa on a contract that Ottawa regretted pretty early on there, and so they move that and they get Ullmark back in the trade. The extras here, Brandon Bussey, whose name proves that most people on the internet are 14, at least mentally, because it's a name, and Michael DiPietro. So Michael DiPietro still part of that Boston organization, very likely to be the backup in Providence. Bussey's probably going to be the starter down there. The cap space, and again, Swayman could eat a lot of this up. $8,636,667. The reports out there are that he's asking for 8.5, not 10, and that the Bruins are countering with in the low $6 million range, so $6 to $6.5 million. It's not that close, but things can change quickly. So I would expect that about $7.5 million is where we end up being with Swayman's next contract, which again, if he plays the way that he has the last couple of years, should be perfectly fine and understandable. So the schedule for Boston is as follows. In October, they have 6 out of 11 at home, so could lead to a strong start there. They have 8 out of 14 at home in November. And then in February, you have 2 at home, 1 away, 1 at home. Then you have the Four Nations Cup. Then they have 3 games at home. So pretty decent month for Boston there. And then in April, 4 of the 8 games they have in April are at home. So nothing overly difficult to start the season, to finish the season, or around what normally would be the All-Star break. This year's the Four Nations Cup. So, yeah, we'll see how it all turns out for them. But the schedule seems to be pretty decent. The Stanley Cup odds plus 1,800, which it feels like are higher than they were, say, going into last season. But I think it's realistic to look at Boston as not like an A-level team when it comes to Stanley Cup contenders, but in that level just below, where with the right moves and with a hot streak, they absolutely could be quite dangerous. So the channel vote goes as follows. 32% of the channel voted them to be first or second in the division. 54% say third or fourth in the division. So that's 86% of the vote saying top 4. 10% say 5th or 6th, and 4% just don't like Boston. You know what? It's more than 4% that just don't like Boston. I'll just say 4% of them voted for Boston to be 7th or 8th in the division. My guess is there's a lot of people who voted them into the top 4 that did it through gritted teeth. But Boston, a team that's had a lot of regular season success. I think Jim Montgomery's done a really good job of coaching this team. But the question becomes, when do we see that success in the postseason, and what's that going to look like? I think that a lot of it's going to depend on Lindholm and Zadorov, both showing that those contracts are justified and that they're going to work out long-term. Because if not, This could end up being a long season for Boston, where again, maybe they're around that wild card spot, and then it's a matter of can they get those wins in the postseason. That's where it's been interesting. I know a lot of people got like, oh, Pastrnak struggled in the playoffs. Pastrnak struggling in the playoffs, I think, is directly related to the fact that if you shut Pastrnak down, odds are the rest of the Bruins aren't going to hurt you that much. So to me, it's not as much a matter of Pasta having to up his game. It's Boston needing to have more players that teams have to shut down rather than the one guy. Because if you're just playing against the one guy offensively, it's a little bit easier than if you have to worry about 3 or 4 different players. It's similar to what we've dealt with Ovechkin at certain points in his career too in Washington, where his stats may have been negatively impacted because he didn't have teammates or line mates that were nearly as dangerous as him. So teams could just key on him and shut down the Caps, and that's kind of where Boston's been with Pastrnak, at the very least this season, especially because he did best Marchand by 43 points atop the list of scorers for Boston. That lead needs to be much smaller next season. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, regarding the Boston Bruins. And do you think contender, playoff team, or are they going to go further down than what we're thinking right now? Because keep in mind that the Atlantic looks like it's toughening up. And so somebody has to drop. I think Boston's going to be a team that people are picking to drop. Although Toronto may get some picks as well from people. It's going to be a very interesting season indeed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.